Hey friends, thanks for stopping by. What I have in this sexy denim hardshell case that just smells of history, yeah, it definitely smells of history, is a 1966 Framus Texan made in the heart of Bavaria, located in southeastern Germany near its border with Czechia, also known as Czechoslovakia or the Czech Republic. Let's have a look. This guitar traveled all the way across the Atlantic Ocean to Alberta, Canada, where my wife's grandfather Robert bought it brand new all those years ago. As you can see, he really played the hell out of it. And my mother-in-law says that she never really saw it out of his hands as she and her sisters were growing up. I mean, just look at those impressions in the fingerboard. Robert traveled all over Western Canada playing this bad boy, from Alberta to BC to the Yukon, and I hear even the Northwest Territories, where he'd play it in pubs and bars. I don't know, maybe they called them saloons back then, where he'd also moonlight as a mean-muscled, mustachioed motorcycle riding bouncer. Sounds like he was the OG Eminem and Eminem. He led an interesting life and was always happy to share a story or two or 10 with you. Sadly, Robert passed away in 2024 up in the mountains of Valemount, BC, after which my mother-in-law brought this amazing guitar home. She asked me to help her get Robert's guitar restored, as I had contact info for some local repairmen. But after looking it over and listening to her expectations, I figured this was a job I could probably tackle myself. In fact, I feel like the many hours I've spent watching guitar builds, repairs, and restorations on YouTube may have prepared me for this very moment.
I'm ready.
Shout out to fellow Canadian YouTuber T. Woodford or Tudford or Twoodford. Not really sure how to say it, for inspiring me to give this a shot. I really do like that guy's channel. I think you should give it a watch if you're into this kind of stuff. Not only is this a project I'd like to challenge myself with, I also want to spend some time with the instrument, as Robert was quite an interesting fella. Met a few times in our travels, and really think his guitar is beautiful. I also thought that recording this video could be a great way to honor his memory. I don't get too worried or stressed out. All my mother-in-law really wants done is to clean up the old glue, put on a new pick guard, and give it a good wipe down, but not erase the many years of history that have been impressed or basically left their mark on the instrument. That means no body sanding or refinishing is required. She also wants it in a playable condition, so that means checking the neck, perhaps working on the frets, slapping on some fresh strings, and giving it, setting the action at a comfortable height, if it's not there already. These are all things a brave, perhaps naive amateur with the internet at his fingertips can do. Right? So let's take a closer look. There's really only two damaged areas I've found so far. The rosewood bridge and fingerboard have split, which was likely caused by dehydration. I think the fretboard will be just fine, as it seems pretty secure from the glue sticking it down to the neck. And how often does anybody play the upper frets on a twanger like this anyway? I may try filling the small fretboard crack, but let's see how the bridge goes first. As for the bridge, it has a considerable split running most of the way across it, and unfortunately it even runs right through the peg holes. Pretty much to that one there. That said, this sucker is also glued down pretty tight, and there's no movement going on even when I tried clamping it. I did think about swapping it out, but I wasn't really able to find the exact replacement online. I did find a couple different bridges used on similar model Texans from the 1960s and 70s, but they're all overseas and will cost $200 or $300 to buy and ship over here. And you might have heard the Looney's doing terribly lately. My mother-in-law said the cost is no issue, as this is her passion project, but swapping to that system means removing the bridge from the soundboard without causing any damage. Given the age of the wood and the brittle lacquer, I am a bit concerned about damaging things even if I was careful. Also, the current bridge is glued on, while the other bridge needs 4 holes screwed through the top of it, so that top of the soundboard, so that it can be attached to some rear mounting plates from underneath. Felt around inside the sound hole, and I don't think that the screws and plates would hit any of the top bracing, but I'm not completely sure. The last reason I don't really want to swap out bridges is that I think they look pretty different from each other. I do like the look of the metal adorned mustache bridge, but I don't think it'll look like Robert's guitar anymore. I don't think that'll do. So here's my plan. I bought a rosewood bridge that I plan to sand down into a fine dust. I'm going to pack the majority of the crack with the rosewood dust and then set it with some super glue. Then I'll sand things down again and hit it up with some conditioner. Lemon oil that isn't actually lemon oil. If all that goes well, I'll probably apply the same fix to the fingerboard. Now, what's the plan for all the gunk all over the soundboard? ASMR. Well, I did research and found 2 commonly used methods that should remove it. It's not involving that. First method uses a hairdryer to warm up the glue, which is then removed by pulling it off with some masking tape. You basically stick the tape down and pull up the warm glue. Method seems slightly aggressive, and I'm worried it might damage the top. Again, this lacquer is super old and brittle, dehydrated, covered with spiderweb cracks. It may work, but I thought I'd try the second method that uses naphtha or a lighter fluid. Which is supposed to dissolve the adhesive but leave the lacquer unharmed. I picked up some Roncinol here from a local hardware store, so I'll give that a try. But of course, I'll test in a hidden area first. I'm also going to give the neck a good cleaning and then string it up and see what we're working with. May need to do some fret work too, as frets are pretty worn down. And I don't know how I just noticed this, but there's a 0 fret. Okay, before we get started, let's look at some of the goodies I found inside this case.
I saw you with the box. What was in the box?
First, we have this old fingerstyle songbook from the year 1965. The subheading, definitely of the era. Mississippi John Hurt, Reverend Gary Davis, Barry Cornfield, Dave Van Ronk, Len Chandler. Cool. He's even marked up the front here with maybe some frets or chord numbers. Who knows? I did find it interesting in the centerfold here. Lyrics for Red-Headed Stranger by Willie Nelson. More about that later. Next, we've got this little clay humidifier. This is actually mine. Put it in the case just to keep things kind of humidified. I don't know if it actually made any difference, but I like to think it did. Okay, let's check in this little neck compartment. We have pretty cool old vintage style capo. you get some interesting tone with the metal right on there. Apply pressure with this little bottom screw. Cool. Have an assortment of picks, all shapes and sizes. Thumb pick. Very nice. Maybe we'll use that later. Spoiler alert. Yeah. Hilarious. These are the picks I like to use, these Jim Dunlops. Actually, I find they grip my fingers the best. Another teardrop shaped pick. And this, if anybody knows what the heck this is, please leave a comment. People even did a Google Lens on it and confused Google. So we have no idea. Looks like it's shaped like a spade. I don't know. Maybe it's like a playing card kind of thing. Oh, that's what it reminds me of. But I don't think you're picking with this. Maybe you are. Lastly, we have this, which I'll take out of the package and show you a little more closely. All right, what we have here is the 1-year guarantee from Framus. Written mostly in German. So let's try and make sense of some of this. So it says the instrument name is the Texan. At least I think that's what that cursive is. So a little interesting. But anyway, I did confirm that it is a Texan. Did some online research. It's the model number of 5196, which is associated with their Texas line. The serial number 57471. That I don't know that has anything to do with the number of the instrument that it was or some unique serial number, but it's definitely not the year that it was manufactured. If you check online, you'll see that this little 66K means that it was manufactured in 1966 in the month of K. So I guess 12 months in a year, that gets you up to the letter L. So that means November 1966 was the year of manufacture. How cool is that he still had this thing in here? I wonder if I mail this in, if they'll honor the warranty. So again, this adhesive is, as you can hear, pretty rock hard. I probably would have just used sandpaper to get it off, but I printed out a template before I ordered my new pick guard for this thing. And as you can see, this glue and gunk and whatever's going on over there kind of extends beyond where this new pickguard is going to go. And this is actually the spec from the old vintage style. So not really sure what went on there. But basically, I don't want to get into a huge refinishing job. So I'm just going to try lift the glue off and keep the lacquer there and see what happens. All right, so I'm just taking my lighter fluid. I'm going to apply it to the towel. And let's see what happens. So I've been working at this a little while, and essentially the glue is so rough, it's basically just tearing up this shop towel. So I'm going to work my way over to a microfiber towel instead. Maybe put a bit more elbow grease in there and see if I can get it off. It does seem like some of it's lifting a little bit. This glue is really on there. What do they say about stuff made back in the day? Usually higher quality than the stuff you get today. So I'm just going to be patient and keep working my way at this and touch base with you in a few minutes. All right, so the lighter fluid did take some of it off. I was able to work some of it off with my fingernails a lot more easily using that. Maybe if I rubbed for like an hour or two, that would come off. But what I'm going to do instead is I basically use some masking tape to tape the outline of the pickguard template here. And I'm going to very gently sand down some of that glue because there's some pretty big high spots, and I want to make sure that I get a nice flat surface to stick down to with the new pickguard. So let's see how that goes. I do have grits going from like 80 up to 400. I've even got like 1,000, 3,000, 5,000 for automotive stuff. So I'm not going to take too much off here, but I just want to get that very top level of glue. Maybe if I can get it knocked down flat with the top of the guitar. Anyway, all this area is going to be covered by the pickguard anyway. So if we do dull the finish, I'm obviously going to not get too far into this rosette. If we do dull some of the finish, at least it'll be covered. I'm going to go with 120 here. Let's see how that works. On a very light pressure. Oh, I'm still recording. Anyway, that seems to have knocked that down pretty nicely. What I'm going to do is give it some more lighter fluid and see if we can get that up now. So that seems to be doing not too bad, actually. Just going to keep at this. Now, most videos and stuff I watched did recommend using naphtha, which is NaPH-THA, as kind of the go-to glue residue remover. I couldn't find any in town. I could have ordered some in, but it was going to come in like a 2-gallon container, which I didn't think I'd ever use again for anything else. And apparently lighter fluid is, and especially this particular type of lighter fluid, is a good alternative to accomplish the same task. So I'll just be patient and keep going here. And more sanding. Well, this is a lot better. Finishes. This top side, top corner of, well, I guess bottom, if you're a righty, a little hazy. I may have to buff that out. I hope it's buffable. It does look slightly different from the top side. So I'll get to that. I did get a little bit of lighter fluid up in that area, accident. But I'm hopeful that will come out. It's getting pretty good here. It's been, I think sanding's been actually more effective than the Roncinol. Then again, who knows what kind of adhesive this was, and like they say, they don't make it like they used to. So yeah, I've moved up to this sanding block now, which is a little larger than I'd like it to be, but still try to be careful. It's just a finer grit. I think this is around maybe like 240-ish or so. Doesn't actually say anywhere. It's actually getting there. Now, I don't think the goal is to actually remove all of the adhesive per se. We just want a nice uniform flat surface for the new pickguard to stick down to. I mean, ideally I'd get the old adhesive off, but if it's on there that good, I don't think it's going to delaminate the pickguard at any point in the future, given what I've thrown at it so far. So I'm going to keep at it, and we'll come back when it's all done. Alrighty, so this is the next day. I actually finished sanding this up. You can hear how smooth it is now. It's not perfectly flush, but it's pretty close. Sanding was really the way to go, just working my way up different grits. The Roncinol didn't do what I hoped it would, but then again, this is some pretty old adhesive, and it could have been epoxy for all I know. I did have to clean up this top area, end up polishing it because the lighter fluid put a little bit of a haze up there. And then my OCD kicked in and I polished the whole thing, so I'll show you that next. So this was that hazy area up there, so I managed to clean that with some polish. And I think it looks pretty sharp. And as I said, my OCD kicked in, so I did the back as well. This might be a good time to mention that this is actually a back that bows out, I guess, kind of like the back of a cello or a violin or something like that. Probably has something to do with the history of the company as started out as violin makers. And then I actually got the neck as well, and that moves actually, it's a lot faster of a neck now that I've polished that. It's a thin neck. I don't know much about neck profiles, shapes like C, V, U, whatever, but I'd say it's thin and probably closer to like an electric guitar. It's not like a very chunky neck. So basically, this is what I used. Polish. I had this for some scratches in my paint on my truck. So I started with the fine cut cleaner and then moved on to the swirl remover. And it didn't take out every scratch or anything, and I wasn't intending to. But I think it looks a heck of a lot better than it did. Alrighty, now let's work on the bridge. I've rolled up some masking tape to stick in the holes. Make sure no glue gets in there. I'm going to stick some this shop cloth on there just in case we get some glue drippage. I don't think we will, but who knows. I've removed this rosewood, allegedly rosewood bridge that I bought online. Doesn't say rosewood anywhere on the packaging. But hey, nobody lies on the internet, right? Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna grind this down to a dust, fill the crack, get some glue in there, and we'll see how that goes. I've removed these little guys just to get them out of the way. Just so you know, this piece is removable. Make sure I grab the metal. Oh yeah, that wasn't almost a disaster. Come on. There we go. Yeah, that comes out. You can see there's little grooves for where the strings go. Let's see if we can get it in focus. Cool. That's what it looks like underneath. So I'm gonna shut my app and get to work. Okay, so I've taken this old rusty utility knife blade that I needed to change, which is nice because it's sharp-ish, but not too sharp. I basically put some of the dust on here, and I'm just kind of working it over and into the crack. Once I have that all full, I'll hit it with some glue. Trying to vibrate it in, make sure it works its way down there. I'll come back once this is all full and we're ready to glue. So this glue here is not as liquid as I would have liked, but this is what came, so this is what we shall use. It's like slightly above water consistency, slightly more jelly. We'll let this dry up. Sand it a bit. Come back with another pass at the dust, and I think we'll be good. Okay, we're back again. I've given it about 5 minutes here. The surface seems pretty dry, so I'm gonna hit it up with some sandpaper. I think I'm gonna have to probably sand this whole bridge, and then, which will probably lead to it having to be refinished, but we'll see. I just realized we're probably shaking the heck out of the camera. Hope we didn't barf. I'll come back when I'm done. Okay, this is after first sanding. Definitely took the finish off, so I'm going to have to refinish that bridge, but I'm going to apply one more layer of the dust and the glue, sand it, and then work on making that look pretty again. Okay, so here is the bridge. Full fully sanded down and oiled up. I think it looks pretty good. Can't see the crack anymore. And I'll put the hardware back in so we can see what that looks like. And there we go. Okay, I did end up putting some of the dust into the crack running up the fretboard. Then I ran some of the glue on top of it as well. I let that dry overnight. And I'm going to use a little trick I learned watching some of these guitar videos. You basically take some tape, wrap it around a kind of a razor, and use it as a scraper to get some of the high spots of that glue out. I'm trying to avoid sanding the fretboard if I can, but I may end up having to do that as well. Basically, just try to do this around the camera, which is a little awkward, but run that like that. You see it's kind of knocking it down there. This is a bit tedious and awkward going around the camera, so I'm going to keep working on that and I'll come back when I'm done. All right, so I cleaned up the glue. You can still see the crack. It's kind of like a hairline crack, so it was tricky getting some of that dust in there, no matter how hard I tried packing it. I think it looks pretty good. It's less noticeable than it was before. Like I said, I don't think there's a structural issue there, so I'm just going to leave it and continue on with the neck. Well, gang, we've hit our first snag in this project. I was checking out the frets with this little rocker, and they're out of alignment. Not all of them, but some of them. That is likely because, or at least this could be contributing to it, there is a back bow on the neck right now. Maybe that's because there's no strings on there. However, it's hard to see, but there's just a little bit of a back bow. So I'd like to get the neck straight, check the frets, and also do any potential fret work. That led me to removing the truss rod cover over here. And this is what I found on the inside. Quite a strange little truss rod thingy. I don't know what the technical term for that is, so I'll call it a thingy. None of my tools in my garage or my toolbox will grab it on the inside or out. I've got some stubby wrenches. 7mm and 1/4 inch are too small, while the 8mm and 5/16 are too large. Also, the thickness of the wrench, even though they're small, is a challenge to get into that space. I felt like I was chewing out the wood a little bit. Also have an assortment of Allen keys. There is an insertion point here on the truss rod end, but it's too shallow. Nothing I can get in there will get any sort of grip. So, my brother-in-law's father is a luthier, guitar builder, and he may have some answers for me. So I'm going to take some pictures, send that along, and I'll have to work on some other things in the meantime. Also waiting for the pickguard to arrive. So it's not like I'm in a huge rush here anyway. Okay, so this is not the order I would have done this in. However, I'm waiting on the pickguard and also need to figure out how to get the neck straightened out. So we're going to do some cleanup on the fretboard. Probably a full restoration of this, you'd sand everything flat, but there is zero chance we're getting rid of Grandpa Robert's finger impressions here. It causes playability issues, so be it. We are going to use the toothbrush and lemon oil trick, or wood conditioner trick. I'm going to get it nice and soaked, give it a good cleaning with the toothbrush, and then wipe everything down, and then apply one final finish of the lemon oil. And we'll see how this looks in the before and after. After the first cleaning, it's looking pretty good. A lot better than it was. Before I could even get to it with the toothbrush, in a lot of places it had already started soaking up. So clearly this needs some hydration and conditioning. I'm going to give it another nice generous coating. Here's what we have after 3 coats of lemon oil. This fretboard, she was pretty thirsty. Might even have a 50-year coin from Alcoholics Anonymous. Sorry we had to end this streak. It had to be done in the name of hydration and hopefully avoiding any further crackage. How did we get to this stage, you might be asking? Did he fix the truss rod issue and straighten the neck? He did not. He did, however, go upstairs and have a conversation with his wife, who reminded him that this was a passion project, not a perfection project. And that justifiably crushed my OCD tendencies, but I did take heed. Again, in a perfect world, to get this guitar playing perfectly, yes, you would perfectly straighten the neck, level the frets, get the perfect neck relief and string action. And we may still be able to achieve that. Once there's string tension on here, who knows if that back bowl will fix itself. But yeah, we do not need that. Perfection would mean sanding down the fretboard and getting rid of Grandpa Robert's finger impressions, and we don't want to do that either. So we are going to simply crown the frets. They are pretty low, especially up here. In fact, you can actually see where these strings kind of bit into the frets. So I don't think I have much material to work with, but I'm going to do my best to crown them. I'm then going to clean this up a little bit. Not that it will impact much, but I've got the tools to do it. So, and I've never done it before, so I'd like to try. And then we are going to polish the frets so that they look shiny when this comes out of the case. And then we'll string it up and check out where we're at. All right, crowning complete. I think they turned out pretty good. I can definitely see feel the rounding and see the rounding when I get down and look at the profile. I am now going to move on to the polishing. So I got these. Let me center them. Online. By the way, not sponsored by any of these companies. I'm just spending my mother-in-law's money. There are a bunch of fret erasers. They go from 180, 400, 1000, 1500, 2000 grit. So I am going to start at the low and work my way up. "22 frets, 45 buffs per fret times 5 buffing erasers means we polish those frets 4,950 times. This is what we achieved. Not too shabby. Fortunately, this is where I'm going to have to leave it for a little while because the pickguard hasn't arrived yet. Once that does, we'll install it and throw some strings on, and we'll hear how it sounds. All right, we're back. It's been a week since I shot the last footage, and we finished up with the frets and did a whole bunch of other stuff, but we were waiting on a pickguard to arrive. Well, didn't arrive. Ended up doing something entirely different. And if you want to watch a video detailing that entire process, please click here or check my playlists or other uploaded videos. I'm going to cut a little bit of a montage as to what we did, just to prove that we did it. It wasn't AI. The robot overlords haven't taken over just yet. All right, we're back. So, here's what we have. I am thoroughly impressed with how this turned out. Looks amazing. Very easy to do. Just had to put in the prep work and the planning work and take our measurements and try again. And got something we're happy with. So, I think it's about time to string this thing up. What do you say? I'm going to speed this up because if you've watched any guitar YouTube, you've seen this all done a billion times, probably much more proficiently than I'm about to do it. Here we go. with that, I think we're finished. Mother-in-law described the strap her dad used as a Navajo blue Native American style strap, so I ordered the closest one I could find based on that description. I ended up with this one made by Ernie Ball, and I think it looks pretty sweet, don't you? While showing off our work, let's learn a little bit about the history of Framus guitars. I'll admit I knew nothing about this brand prior to recording the video, so all this information was sourced from Wikipedia and the Framus Vintage website. The founder of Framus, Fred Wilfer, was born in 1917 in Schoenbach, Czechoslovakia, now known as Luby in the Czech Republic or Czechia. This was an area well known for its violin craftsmen, and I'm guessing that's what influenced their archback guitar bodies. The story of Framus really began in 1945 when the Soviets who occupied post-war Czechoslovakia began expelling Germans from the region. Many were given mere hours to collect their belongings and depart their homeland. When Fred Wilfer heard about this expulsion, he saw an opportunity for his countrymen to set up shop in the West. He contacted government officials in Bavaria and laid out his plans, which were welcomed, and he was given permission to create all conditions needed for the new settlement. This permission was granted because during World War II, Wilfer was known as an anti-fascist. Wilfer started production in an old army barracks, but by 1954 he moved to a new factory, the most modern of its day. At that time, he had about 170 employees and was making more than 2,000 instruments a month. Guitars soon became more popular than violins, likely due to the Beatles boom of the 1950s, so Wilfer built a second factory in 1966, which greatly increased production, as he now employed around 300 workers. During this time, Framus became the largest producer in Europe, making over 50,000 instruments annually. Framus also held a virtual monopoly in the alpine spruce and maple forestry industries, allowing it to choose the very best woods for its instruments. You might be wondering, how did Framus enter the North American market? In a bit of marketing genius, Wilfer secured concessions with 11 U.S. military bases during the 1950s, and this led to many U.S. soldiers returning home with a Framus guitar in their hands. Framus instruments were also used by many popular musicians of the day, including Billy Laurento, jazz musician Attila Zoller, rocker Peter Krause, John Lennon of the Beatles, and Bill Wyman of the Rolling Stones, among others. Many of these artists were world-renowned, generating great exposure for their brand. Unfortunately, Framus declared bankruptcy and closed its doors in the mid-1970s, which was blamed on various internal and external factors, such as the price dumping caused by newer Japanese builders. Many details from this period are a bit unclear, as the company archives were lost during the closure. However, in 1995, Fred's son, Hans Peter Wilfer, revived the Framus name to produce musical instruments as part of Warwick GmbH & Co. Music Equipment KG Company in Germany. Wow, what a mouthful. Along with a range of electric guitars, the company still produces replacement parts such as knobs, tuners, bridges, and tailpieces for their vintage models to this very day. All right, so I'm guessing you'd like to hear what this thing sounds like, right? I want to thank you all for sticking around to the end of the video and learning a bit about my wife's grandfather and his cool guitar. If you like what you saw, or have your own story about Framus or any other inherited instruments, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more videos like this. I think I've done enough talking now, so I'll play you out to a few songs from Grandpa Robert's musical era until things fade to black. Cheers. This is Redhead Stranger by Willie Nelson. 1, 2, 3.
How about some CCR? This is Country Roads by John Denver.